Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and this will be just like how I did it for DRR, where I'm gonna be breaking down with you guys how exactly we go about doing the Castorice team comps in essentially their best performance in all 4 different Memory of Chaos 12 stages, first half, second half for the current Memory of Chaos, as well as the first half, second half for the brand new upcoming Memory of Chaos, right? So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the build I have right now. So this is going to be the Castorice build that I'm running for essentially every single run that I'll be showing you guys a little bit later. Generally speaking, E0 S1 Castorice, E6 S0 RMC, E1 S0 Tribi, where we're going to be rocking with the true damage buff, as well as a Gallagher running E6. I was personally bouncing between Shed Feeling as well as the Warm Shortens Cold Nights, which this one technically also give you quite a bit of healing, but I do find myself that need a little bit more of the energy to help us secure the Tribi ultimate or the RMC ultimate. Then I just went with the Shed Feelings towards the end. Generally speaking, I would say that the experience of playing Castorice, especially going for like a 0 cycle clear, it is not really tied to Castorice itself, but more so dependent on how much can you get your new bot, as well as stacking on your Mimi to get the extra turn in order to achieve the maximum number of heals, maximum number of new bots, which allow us to spawn the dragon. From what I've been experiencing so far, almost every single time I would be going for full blast, except for some specific scenarios which I can see a little bit later, where I would intentionally not do a full blast just to hold on for a little bit of damage and squeezing a little bit more energy, because if you kill it too fast and you don't get enough healing, then you can't summon the dragon fast enough, right? You almost 100% of the time want to make sure that this Gallagher's Besotted is going to be applied to the enemy units, and if this is not going to be applied, then you are going to be reducing quite a bit of the healing output, which would affect you summoning the dragon in due time, right? Tribi is going to be always on Bananadvisors, but that being said, if you do have a S1 Tribi, that is also completely fine, because Castorice is already going to be hitting the effective 134 speed, as well as coupled with the fact that we have extra time for RMC. Bananadvisors honestly doesn't really offer us that much value specifically, at least from my experience. If you do want a little bit more damage, S1 is completely fine. I would say that this E1 Tribi is of course extremely important. I will argue that you guys can see for the 4 runs later, if we didn't have this E1 Tribi, the damage might be a little bit lacking. One of the main reasons is just because for a 0 cycle or like a sustained run, if you're going to be running Castorice, the biggest issue of what I've experienced so far compared to other DPSs that I've been playing honkaistarrail is that you need to run this sustain, right? Because sustain is inevitably tied to Castorice damage output by summoning the dragon. But as we also know, at the same time, sustains themselves, when they're going to be outputting healing or additional HP for a team, they don't really do any damage whatsoever, so their only purpose is to serve there, give us a utility for Castorice. I would say that running a sustainless run without a sustain, it was not too comfortable. In fact, it was almost unplayable, at least from my experience. You really needed the additional healing, and so at this current point of time, we don't really have a unit that can output that much damage, that much buffs, while gaining healing at the same time, which is why you can see that the Castorice 0 cycles, I would say that without this E1 Tribi, it's not going to be so straightforward, right? But without further ado, let's just jump into the breakdown of the runs itself. I'll be showing you guys in the terms of difficulty in my personal playing experience. So the final 0 cycle that I'll be showing you guys is going to be, in my opinion, the most difficult 0 cycle, right? So the first 0 cycle that I will have accomplished, which I would say is going to be considerably easy, is going to be the brand new MOC 12 Pollux, which is coming right after Flame Reaver. The concept is very straightforward, but I just want to pause this a little bit. If you are a little bit confused on how the Pollux mechanics work, check out my upcoming video or the previous video, where I basically break down for you guys how exactly would you go ahead and fight against this Pollux, just like how I broke down Flame Reaver for you guys, right? So this is gonna be in an upcoming video, but for the run itself, it's pretty straightforward. We always open up a full blast because like I mentioned in my earlier guide just now, I want to gain this new bot as fast as possible, and you can see that when Pollux drops us down to 1 HP because of the special mechanic, when this thing reaches 100%, our entire team will hit 1 HP, but because our entire team hits 1 HP, we're going to be generating a ridiculous number of new bots across our entire team, which is why I felt that the 0 cycle run achieve of Pollux is going to be very straightforward, at least for the Castorice perspective, because she's just so synergistic with the Pollux boss, right? It's kind of like, you know, killing your own dragon, which is, you know, a little bit ironic, but essentially it is what it is. So we're going to be opening up with a Mimi summon into a Gallagher, instantly applying Besotted so we can start healing our entire team at this current point, and then afterwards Tribi is gonna load off the follow-up attacks, give a little bit of a basic, and then we're gonna get 100%. But I do want to give this up into Castorice first, right before she summons the dragon, because if I were to summon the dragon first and then don't give this, then the dragon is not gonna receive the true damage buff, right? So you do want to be a little bit more mindful. So now that we do get ourselves a dragon, I do want to let go of the dragon first before Castorice, because I actually want this dragon to die as fast as possible, so we can can replenish the dragon all over again by generating new bars with Castorice, which is why you can see most of the time I'm not really too concerned with using the enhanced skill for Castorice. She's only going to be there just for us to build up as much stack as possible, and this is going to be the damage from E0 as on 1.68 million damage, and Pollux is roughly going to be at 30% HP. And one good thing about this MOC 12 is there's actually no wave 1. This is going to be the only wave you're facing, so you immediately fight the boss with no other mobs in between, which could be a little bit problematic because what players used to do last time is that they made use of wave 1 to generate more skill points and more energy before you go into wave 2 against a special boss. But for this, you're instantly thrown against Pollux. You have no time to charge your energy, so this is pretty much as soon as possible you gotta get it go, right? So now that we actually have our dragon at 98%, we're just gonna immediately summon it again, and because Bro's HP is gonna be at 11%, I actually do not want to overkill, so I'm just gonna use a simple swipe attack, which brings us to the 0% HP, because at this point it's a little bit of an excessive damage, so we're gonna kind of mitigate that, right? So now that we enter into phase 2, this phase is gonna be essentially very similar to phase 1, especially if you do not really get concerned yourself with the mechanic, if you play around it, which is gonna be when this thing reaches 100%, he will take drastically reduced damage, but when this thing goes back to 0%, they're gonna take very high damage. So it's gonna be a very straightforward. We're gonna be applying our basic, applying our skills with Gallagher. Yeah, so now it's gonna reach 100% over here after a Mimi punch, and he's gonna pop off another special mechanic where we reaches our entire team with 1 HP, right? Unfortunately, because our dragon is still on the field, we're not gonna be able to get a charge, which is completely fine because we still have a lot of damage remaining to help us get through. I can see here, even though my Castorice is gonna be the last action remaining, how the hell are we gonna 100-0 this guy? You can see this damage output coming out extremely quick. As you can see over here, very big burst of 1.7 million, and because we do have ourselves a Mimi at 99% HP, we are gonna be able to get this breaking his special state from the enhanced state, and the Mimi is gonna give us the extra turn, immediately bring our Castorice back in for us to do another normal skill into the dragon, which is gonna be leaving a lot of room for us to basically secure this 0 cycle. I would say that maybe for this 0 cycle compared to all of the other 3 0 cycles, E1 3B probably mattered the least here, just because we have so much more damage remaining that this guy is a definite overkill, right? So that is gonna be our very first 0 cycle against the upcoming MOC 12 boss Pollux. Then this is going to be the next MOC 12, which I think is technically a little bit more annoying because I had to do a couple of resets so that we can kind of play around the TV RNG, especially with the additional energy generator for mainly either Gallagher, Mimi, or Trippy, because if it hits Castorice, it's going to be completely useless. But after a couple of resets, we are able to get this at a very comfortable 0 cycle as well. Exact same team, E0, S1, Castorice, E1, S0, yada. First wave, you do want to try to manage your damage a little bit, which is going to be the same thing you're going to be seeing for the another 2 MOC 12. Because of this wave 1, you want to try to hold off your charge as well as your energy and skill points of your team right before you enter into wave 2. So you can see over here at this very first point where you're going to be getting hit, he's going to be doing the hits over here, 99%. A very important tip that I want to bring up here is you actually want to make Gallagher cards is out during Castorice's turn, because if the cards your Gallagher out earlier, it's actually going to trigger Mimi's 100%, and Mimi is going to come back up, which will result in Castorice wasting 1 turn, right? So you actually want the steal cards to be sorted, because at this point, you can generate a little bit more heals. Now that after Castorice does her skill, Gallagher is going to go ahead and call off the basic attack, Tribute activates the ultimate, so that we don't waste any of Mimi's extra turn as long as our Castorice is going to be on field, right? So now, immediately, Mimi jumps back into it, immediately skill back into a skill back, charging the 100% ultimate, and then we're just pretty much going to instantly wipe them out. But like I mentioned, you don't really want to kill them all immediately. You kind of want to save a little bit of room. So that's why you can see 1.3 million over here. All of the mobs are going to die here, and we have a lot of damage, quite comfortable to basically get rid of all of the 3 mobs, even without using the full blast. So you can see over here, our dragon can actually last all the way until the next wave, because we have a lot more damage, especially we're going to finish off the enemy with a Castorice enhanced skill, right? So at this point, I'm just going to be saving my Mimi ultimate and replenishing skill on Trippy so that we can cast Trippy's ultimate later on as well. So here is going to be getting a hit a little bit. Same thing for dragon. I don't want to kill them too fast, so I'm just instantly going to hit them with 1 blast, and I'm just going to swipe them away just to make sure that we don't waste out the damage, because I really need Gallagher and Mimi to just generate the skill points as well as the energy for the next Reaver. So now Gallagher, he's going to do a basic. We're just going to generate a little bit more skill points, and then Mimi is more or less going to punch this guy in the face. If he's not going to die, then Castorice is going to be the one to wrap it up, right? So now, final cleanup, boom, and that's going to be a wave 1. Then going into wave 2, This one is very, very important. You guys remember from the TV last time, you do not want to cast your skill immediately, because if the dragon becomes happy or the dinosaur becomes happy, he's gonna force tutor into the robot so that you cannot actually make them happy any longer. So you actually want the TV to hit you first for both attacks. Only after hitting you for both, then can you activate your ultimate and make all of them happy, so that you can make sure that you get the energy and without getting any of the consequences, right? So we're just gonna go over here, get us the additional charge required for Mimi, and then we're just more or less gonna prepare for a bit of RNG, see who the additional energy is gonna be given to. Ideally to Mimi or Gallagher or Trippy, but if it's not gonna happen, then it's gonna be a little bit unfortunate, right? So over here, we're gonna pop off the ultimate, refresh Trippy's ultimate a little bit, give us the action value advance, and now at this point, because our dragon is gonna be a final turn, you are definitely gonna let go of a full blast. But even if we technically live for one more turn, you will always let go of a full blast here, because the TV's HP is, as we know, is a shared HP pool, right? So you actually want to deal as much damage as possible every single time. So this part is honestly very, very straightforward. You do need to grind a little bit of RNG as to which energy the TV gives your entire team, so you can make this run horse, right? So we're just gonna give the Gallagher skill again, and like I mentioned, we actually do want to activate our skill first. Sorry, I do want to activate our Gallagher ultimate first, so we can apply our Besotted, so we can just generate a little bit more charge as long as our team deals damage, right? As you can see, every single time we do a damage, it's gonna be a lot more. 69%. Gallagher is gonna go ahead and just... At this point, I do want to spend my basic attack just to make sure we don't waste our Besotted energy. And at this point, Mimi also gives us 100% charge, so we can immediately sweep it up into 100% for the dragon. And it is definitely going to be enough to basically summon. At this point, I intentionally didn't summon immediately, because I wanted to see which of the benefits are we going to be receiving from the TV, as well as including the skill points over here. So now that the skill point is going to be triggering over here, our dragon is going to be summoned, and we're just going to let go of this tribute over here, and then this is going to be very, very comfortable to basically get us to the second cycle, right? There's basically no need to go all in, because this is going to be showing up as 1%, so this is just a swipe, and it's going to be 0%, and then everything just sort of repeats by itself over here, right? Mimi is just, at this point, we have a lot of skill points, so I do want to generate a little bit more energy, a little bit more charge, and see if we do have enough to cast our ultimate before the entire cycle expires, right? So Trippy casts our ultimate as usual, then we can just go ahead and do our basic attacks, and Gallagher is gonna pretty much go ahead and continue our heals. Yeah, at this point, I was kind of looking at how many action value we have, but which is a lot of action, since it's going to be 5 units. So I was thinking maybe Trippy can get us another ultimate, so not too much of a waste since we have quite a lot of skill points remaining. Always cast your Gallagher skill on the dragon if possible, because we are going to be running the 4P Sacrados, so you can give him a little bit more crit damage, right? Unfortunately, the TV hits Castorice, which is completely wasted, so it is what it is. But at this point, it's not going to be that important any longer, because we should have enough action to basically get us to the final dragon, which we'll be seeing in just a little bit, which is honestly very, very satisfying. So one enhanced skill into Dragon Full Blast. At this point, there's basically no reason to basically stop anymore, because if either we don't kill here or we kill here, right? So we just basically all in and see if we can charge up enough health pool to summon another dragon over here, right? So one big boom, 90% HP remaining. Unfortunately, this guy got tutored, so there's nothing we can do about that, so we're gonna hit with the energy regeneration. But luckily for us, Castorice actually doesn't really care if we get hit with the energy drain, because you can see over here, even when our dragon is gonna be expired, we actually gain new butt from getting hit. So while our entire team's energy is reduced, Castorice actually gains new butt, which sometimes you might want to consider if you actually want a TV to be happy or angry about. I'll leave it up to you to consider. At this point, it is basically a little bit more of an RNG, where I'm just basically gonna, because all these are gonna be tutored. Yeah, so we're just gonna cast our skill over here just to get as close to 100% as possible. We're gonna hit with the skill point penalty, and at this point, because the enemy's TV was angry and gave them an action value advance, this ironically actually helped my entire team. So now that this entire team, one of them is actually happy, hitting us with a Gallagher, which allows us to get the ultimate, which is extremely lucky for us. So we actually get this additional Besotted in, which also gives us a little bit more heal for Castorice to basically summon the dragon, right? This TV was wasted, but since Gallagher did manage to get the Besotted as well as additional healing, this was very lucky for us. And when the dinosaur hits us in the face with a double attack, we actually get enough energy for RMC to get this pop of ultimate, give us the extra turn, and that is going to pretty much wrap it up for this TV. I would say comparing this TV 5 target into Pollux is definitely a little bit more RNG depending on which TV gives you the energy to require for full clear. 1% guy, it is what it is, summon the dragon, and that is going to be our 0 cycle against the second half of the TV, right? For this one, I would say that the E1 Trippy most likely matter a little bit more, especially in the very first phase before going to phase 2. But towards the end, there was quite a bit of damage output remaining. So if you still are running gonna be an E0 Trippy, I don't think you'll be facing too much of a problem if you're trying to replicate this, right? So that is gonna be that. And keep in mind, this is also completely off element, right? They have a 0 quantum weakness, but since we do have the field where which decreases the enemy's rest by 20%, Castorice doesn't really care that much about enemy weaknesses anyways in the first place, right? So that is gonna be be that for our second Memory of Chaos 12. This is going to be our third Memory of Chaos 12, and the reason why this is because I actually found myself having an easier time here compared to Flame Reaver. For the Flame Reaver MOC 12, I actually tried a lot of times, but I somehow always miss a little bit of percentage, but I'll let you guys see the run towards the end. For the Kafka run over here, I would say that this MOC 12, despite being not having a quantum weakness, Kafka only has a single phase with 2 elites. So it is not as annoying as those 2-phase bosses, I would say, compared to the general MOC 12, but just in terms of raw HP, it is still going to be a very high damage output, right? Luckily for us, since we do get hit by the lion as well as the horses, we can get quite a bit of healing back up, which allow us to basically get the run completed, right? So like as mentioned, I'm going to be doing the same thing. Gallagher is going to cast the ultimate on Castorice's turn so that we don't waste the Mimi 100% action relevance as true damage. Pop off the tribute ultimate first to get us into the state. 100% gives us a Castorice, and like I mentioned, I always want to cast my dragon before Castorice's turn begins so that I can immediately more or less deal as much damage as possible, and then I'll kind of just resume everything all over again, right? So for the first wave, I know I'm doing enough damage, so I'm not going to immediately kill them all and do a full burst, so I'm just going to Maze of Castorice and Hunt skill to be the one dealing the damage, and eventually I basically paced out my damage enough such that it is just nice for us to gain the maximum number of skill points and maximum number of energy before we enter into wave 2. For these two enemies, they don't really do that much damage as long as you can kill them fast enough before they let go of all of their praise Aquila thingies. So at this point, I'm just kind of chilling, doing a little bit more hits, and then not finishing my dragon, and I'm just going to use the dragon against Kafka on the very first task, because you can see over here, the two enemies, they are more or less almost there at this point, right? So Mimi is just going to go ahead, build a little bit more skill points, build a little bit more charge, and one hunt skill, immediately take them both away, just nice enough for Kafka. So Kafka over here is definitely going to be RNG. The best case scenario is that she aims Gallagher, and Gallagher has a fat rest, so that not only does he gain the extra turn, she gets the extra energy, extra skill points, as well as extra healing. Unfortunately, you can see over here, Kafka did not in fact aim at Gallagher, so unfortunately she's going to be aiming Tribi. Not the worst, at least it's not going to be Castorice, but it is still a little bit unfortunate, but we're still able to secure this run because I can see over here, it is going to be a 1-phase boss. There's no phase 2. Instantly letting go of the full dragon, 1.6 minutes, and Kafka is going to be already at a 48% HP despite not having a quantum weakness, right? So Castorice genuinely doesn't really care that much about weaknesses whatsoever because the dragon does give you the 20% rest down. We're just going to get a little bit more healing into it ultimate and apply Besotted so our entire team can generate even more healing for the new buffs. And hopefully for us at this point, Gallagher's basic gives us the 100% charge. Absolutely gives us 100%. Summon this dragon, and at this point we can pretty much just choose to go all in because we still have quite a bit of turn remaining. You can see over here we have a Gallagher, we have a Mimi, we have Armsy. I'm basically calculating how many more units turn do we have, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I definitely have enough to summon another dragon again. So I basically just went all in, do as much damage as possible, leaving us to be 7% Kafka as well as a horse, right? So it's a very brute force kind of way. I would say that Kafka is technically even easier than TV, but just because the annoying thing is the mind control. So we're gonna get hit by the horse over here. Kafka is just gonna hit us, give us a little bit more energy, a little bit more HP loss, which generates to a little bit more new bar. We're at 31% of new bar right now, and I have no skill points left, so we're just gonna do a basic attack into a skill. Mimi is gonna do a punch over here, and luckily for us, right here, when I cast my skill, I immediately get the Castorice dragon. If I did not have the Castorice dragon there, that would have been a, the 1% guy, because I couldn't get the Mimi ultimate to give us the extra turn, right? But luckily for us, we did get it, so that is also going to be a 0 cycle against Kafka for the Memory of Chaos 12 in the current rotation. With that, we finally come to the final MOC 12, which is going to be against Flame Reaver. And this Flame Reaver, I can say that I really tried a lot. Unfortunately, this is going to be the most difficult MOC 12 compared to all 4 MOCs, but you're just going to see how it's going to look like in just a little bit, right? So starting is always the same. We let go of a full burst, get our rotations up exactly the same. I've tried different variations. Sometimes I save out my ultimate, sometimes I don't save out my ultimate, sometimes I let the dragon go immediately, but this is pretty much the closest I managed to get to a 0 cycle. Or is it actually going to be a 0 cycle? You guys can wait and find out, right? So Gallagher, same thing as always. We're just going to go ahead and cast our skills, cast our ultimates. I didn't really mind too much that it's going to be a waste here because we are going to be getting hits from 2 of the flame out of space, so it's most likely going to be 100% regardless. So I just went ahead and go for it. A little bit of a waste on Castorice AV. I think we wasted like 7 action value, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Cast a skill into an ultimate, summon the dragon. We're going to hit with 2 hits because we don't want to overkill, just like how all of the previous MOC 12 was like. So we get 2 hits into a swipe, at this point, we just basically generate our skill points, generate our energy, and prepare for our next wave over here. So at this point, nothing too crazy. Gallagher really wants his ultimate up as soon as possible because you really want the Besotted against Flame Reaver later on, right? So very important. So we're just going to be spamming skill on Gallagher almost every single time and always going to be on the dragon just for the 4P Segredos to activate. And at this point, I again do not want to overkill, so I swipe a little bit. Unfortunately, this guy is basically almost dead, so Mimi is going to be the one punching the guy to the face, getting out a little bit of charge, and that is going to be that for the Zero Cycle. Wave 1 could save one more skill point just now, but it was a little bit unfortunate. And at this point, I had a little bit of an angry reaction because I'm supposed to cast my ultimate for RMC and Tribi immediately, but I was trying to go for something different, so I just tried this variation, and you can see how the experiment was like later on, right? So Tribi's Dance activates, pushes our dragon before Flame Reaver so that we can let go of a full blast dragon at this current point of time. Full blast, let go, and then Gallagher is gonna just size, should be able to get enough ultimate after casting a skill. Pop up 42, skill over here, get the ultimate off. Yep, that's going to be a power share feeding. We're waiting for him to summon the clones, and then we're going to pop off the ultimate. But ideally, actually, you can just let go of the ultimate immediately. There's not too big of a change over there because if you get here a little bit more, you can save up for the ultimate in the next wave, right? So at this point, we do get the Mimi action very advanced. Summon the dragon first, immediately let this damage go. You basically have two options at this point of time, right? So this is going to be the first turning point. You have option 1 of either killing every single one of these clones immediately, and this is going to bring him extremely close to phase 2. You'll probably be left with around 5 or 10% HP. The option 2 is you do not kill him, you only let go of like 3 blasts into a swipe, and then that is gonna kill his clones, but he is still gonna be alive. So you actually want him to survive one more turn in phase 1, so he can actually summon more clones after this, right? So we didn't go all in. 23% HP remaining, deal a bit more enhanced skill, start charging out about basics, start charging out about healings. Tribi is just gonna go in and do normal things. You kind of want to see, you don't want him to break right now because you do want him to start summoning his units after this, right? So you can see he's gonna do the same thing again, summoning 4 clones. Now at this current point of time, you can pretty much go ahead and let go of the enemies, and then he is definitely gonna be dying over here. Boom, boom, boom. And then when we do the swipe, it's basically gonna be death. So I actually didn't opt for the full blast because the clones are gonna die and it's gonna be 0%. Then it's gonna heal again, which gives us a little bit more, gives us an agony, get a little bit of DDD. But at this point, it's gonna see how close we actually are at the 0 cycle. It's gonna be very close. So Gallagher is gonna go ahead. Ideally, he actually gets his ultimate here, but I don't think we actually have enough for ultimate. But I can see, I was thinking, okay, praying. Let me see if I actually hit it. Ooh, very unfortunate that we didn't get an ultimate there. So it is gonna be what it is. But at this point, we still have the Mimi ultimate. Give us 100% action value advance at the 100% charge. Tribi goes up a little bit more. Kill all of the clones. We basically bring up our dragon for one final big blast, right? So this is gonna be one of the rotations I found. A little bit difficult to click. We get the dragon all in at 47% HP. And you're going to be able to see over here, we are left at roughly 11% HP, right? So we're actually going to be left with 11% HP. But luckily for us, because of this MOC debuff, we actually hit him just nice for the 10% down to 0%, which technically, if you guys want to call it a 0 cycle, I'll leave it up to you guys, right? So that was gonna be, I would say, my closest run to a 0 cycle. There was an alternative, but unfortunately, I don't have the footage right now, which is, the alternative was, I do not save this dragon. I always go all in, right? I think that I've mentioned over here, this part, I always go all in and let Flame Reaver hit us with the phase 2 immediately by letting go of my dragon, which technically can give us a little bit more charge. But what I found from that is my Castorice will be left with, at the very last action value, somewhere here, she'll be left with roughly 60%, 65%, which is gonna be quite far off from actually getting the dragon. But as if you can somehow manage to fill that roughly 30-35% new butt to summon another dragon, then that will be the run for the 0 cycle. Unfortunately, that was a little bit off, so I didn't really take it, and it eventually became even longer action value compared to this 0 cycle I show over case, right? But that being said, I do have another thing to show you guys, which is going to be this bonus 0 cycle. So this is going to be with the power of E2 Castorice. So this is going to be E2 S1 Castorice, but with an interesting twist, which is we are running a double sustain team alongside with Tribi. I don't really think I need to explain this too much. But it was very, very interesting because of the E2. We get the 100% action very advanced. We get 2 more that you can see that the dragon burst for the very, very first hit. So you can see over here that we actually let go of the damage. That was the very, very first burst with basically 0 buffs. And because we're running double sustain, the only buff we're getting from this team is only Tribi. We have no RMC true damage buff. We have no Sunday crit damage buff. The only damage amplification is going to be from Tribi herself. And then Luocha and Gallagher, they're basically just going to act as batteries. Yep, the entire purpose is just give us healing and give us as much HP as possible so that we can summon the dragon as fast as possible. So you can see over here, this is actually going to be my very, very first try. I didn't even think about how do I abuse the E2 that much. I instantly just activated it, and this was my very, very first experience with the E2 S1 Castorice. So I kind of just went with it, charge out my skill, charge out my energy, charge out my everything. And then this is definitely going to be dying over here after a swipe into a Gallagher. Give us a little bit more energy, just enough for Luocha to essentially finish this guy off, and then we are gonna go into a flame Reaver at this point in time, right? So Tribi, we're gonna activate the Duns and then immediately let go of the dragon ultimate right now after Luocha, right? So one good thing about, like I mentioned with the dragon in the creator early access guide, is that if you were to let your dragon hit 50% HP, you can see over here, Luocha actually activates the free heal right there. Right, so if you were to stop right now, Luocha actually activates this free heal immediately to kind of heal your dragon up a little bit. But I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go all in and gain the charge as much as possible because we are going to be running this double sustain team comp, which can give us a lot of HP. So the new butt is honestly not going to be that big of a concern. So I basically just went all in. Gallagher gives us a heal into an ultimate, which applies a Besotted, and then character is just going to go ahead and deal all the damage to get the charges for new butt, right? So at this point, 54% into 94%, Luocha is definitely going to be able to give us 100% over here. One heal into 100%, immediately summon this, and I'm just gonna let this go. After he summons the Flame Reaver soldiers, boom, summons 4 stacks, deal a little bit more damage, and then my dragon is just basically gonna annihilate them. This is gonna be with E2 S1 Castorice. So Castorice actually goes first before the dragon for 1 enhanced skill. So that enhanced skill plus 7 bursts of whatever. Yep. That is gonna be 2.3 million instantly bringing us to the phase 2, right? So that is gonna be the raw damage that you're gonna be getting from E2 S1 Castorice with only Tribi as a sustain, with only Tribi as a support, with no other supports in terms of the damage amplification, right? So at this point, Gallagher and Luocha are just basically there to give us the charges, but we are gonna see immediately at 83%, pop of a Luocha outdo into a skill, and we're definitely gonna be able to get 100% over here. And because remember that you have E2 S1 Castorice, you actually do get this additional action value advance 100% for Castorice itself. So I actually went for the skill first into an ultimate, and you can see I get another extra turn. So I'm gonna cast my enhanced skill again right here. And then my dragon is going to be the one to basically deal as much damage as possible. That's going to be another 7 stacks of full blast because of the E2. Boom, 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 boom. Yep, this is honestly very, 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 very satisfying. Hit is in with 2.6 million, down to 8% HP. And you can see I'm actually a little bit short, except that we did get hit on Gallagher over here. So we're going to pop ball with another Besotted, 63% into 79%. And then we're going to do a basic attack into 97%. Tribi lands the final damage to finish off with Castorice, giving us a 0 cycle. But that being said, this is gonna be an E2 S1 Castorice running the double sustain team comp for the 0 cycle for Flame Reaver. This was my very, very first try with no retries whatsoever, right? So with that, we have pretty much come to the end of our 0 cycle showcases, where I basically show you guys all 4 different team comps. So these are gonna be my builds. You guys have already seen this before. Like one is as follows. Yep. Tracer's maxed out. Relic is gonna be this. Yep, very, very nice. And then our Eidolons is gonna be as follows, right? So with that, we have come to the end of our Castorice 0 cycles the entire universe. What of the day is gonna be 0. Join Twitch, join Discord, join Twitter, all the best. We're gonna put up. See you guys next time. Take care.